vosotros. Y eso es lo que vamos a hacer. Ha traído a una persona que luego vais a conocer, que se llama Kerstin Kärnekull, me parece, y que es la que va, básicamente, el día de hoy es para que ella nos cuente cómo viven, cómo se organizan, cómo toman decisiones, cómo hacen allí en estos cohousing, en estos proyectos similares al nuestro. Entonces, básicamente el tema es que a las 11, la previsión es que a las 11, de 11 a 12, ella haga una exposición larga, de 1 hora, hacemos un descanso a las 11 de 20 minutos, 25, y volvemos otra vez con ella de 11 y 25 a 1 y pico, para que acabe si no ha terminado y para que podamos preguntarle lo que se nos ocurra a los socios. Es decir, vamos a tener después del descanso 1 hora más para que ella acabe y para que nosotros tengamos la ocasión, la oportunidad de preguntarle aquello que nos parezca que merece la pena conocer por todos. Y una vez que acabe, que eso será a la 1:30 aproximadamente, entraría ya Nemesio a actualizarnos la información del tema de la tramitación del Plan General de Meruelo y esas cosas, y algún otro asunto que tiene por ahí que nos quiere comentar, que es de interés para todos, y con eso llegamos a la hora de la comida, que serían las 2 y pico. Entonces vamos a comer al sitio habitual, allí debajo del ayuntamiento, a base de pinchos y tal, y a las 5 los dos grupos, es decir, los miembros del grupo de participación y convivencia y del grupo de acción sobre el terreno, volvemos aquí, a este mismo sitio, el consejo rector también, los miembros del consejo que quieran, lógicamente, aquí para que ya en un grupo más pequeño, con Kerstin, podamos profundizar en aquellos detalles que nos parece que merece la pena preguntarle a esta señora. Pero eso ya solo, insisto, a las 5 solamente ya los miembros del grupo de acciones del terreno y del grupo de participación y convivencia y el consejo, lógicamente, ¿de acuerdo? Y eso será a las 5. De manera que yo ahora ya enseguida voy a dar paso para que empiece en hora, que parece que vamos bien, a lo previsto. Antes de que intervenga Kerstin, Nemesio, el presidente, nos va a contar brevemente unas cuantas diferencias importantes que hay en cómo se ve la atención a los mayores en los países nórdicos y en España, que es distinto. Y eso nos va a permitir entender un poco mejor lo que nos cuente Kerstin. Es decir, Nemesio nos va a poner en situación, ver un poco esas diferencias de manera que nos facilite la comprensión de luego la conferencia de Kerstin. Luego ya Amelia Pascua, que es miembro también del Consejo, va a presentar a Kerstin, y a las 11, la previsión es que a las 11, de 11 a 12 ya haga la exposición Kerstin de lo que ha preparado, ¿de acuerdo? Entonces, únicamente darle paso a Nemesio y decirle a Elena Bengoechea, que es la que ha estado en el corazón de toda esta historia, que acaba de entrar, que se lo agradecemos mucho y que ojalá que quede la jornada estupenda, que seguro que va a ser así, ¿de acuerdo? Entonces, Nemesio, cuando quieras.
Bueno, pues buenos días. Os tengo que decir que no os voy a cansar mucho, solamente me permite un cuarto de hora. Me habían dado 5 minutos y me parecía poco, o sea que me tienen controlado. Bueno, pues en primer lugar, daros la bienvenida a todos los que estáis aquí presentes, tanto socios como otros compañeros de todo el país que han querido venir a esta jornada. Pues bueno, pues a todos gracias por vuestra asistencia, ¿no? Bueno, hemos querido que esta jornada fuera abierta porque nosotros somos una entidad colaborativa en el sentido de que entendemos que si otros nos han ayudado a nosotros a poner en marcha nuestro proyecto, pues si alguien puede aprender también de estas jornadas y de nuestra experiencia, pues como siempre sabéis que estáis que estamos a vuestra disposición. Aquí hay gente que ha venido desde muy lejos, con lo cual yo creo que también tantos socios, tenemos alguno que nos viene desde Cádiz. Tenemos otros compañeros de otros proyectos que han venido, pues algunos de Granada, otros han venido de Badajoz, otros han venido de Huelva, de Valladolid, de Palencia, de Bilbao, de Asturias. Es decir, este es un movimiento que yo creo que ya es imparable, ¿no? En todas las comunidades autónomas. Otra cosa es que se consigan poner en marcha, pero hay bastante interés por este tipo de comunidades. Bueno, solamente felicitar a los compañeros que están en el grupo de participación y convivencia. Yo creo que, como veis, han tenido un gran acierto en elegir el tema y luego elegir a la persona, Kerstin, que es la que lo va a desarrollar, como luego ya veréis en el historial que tiene esta mujer. Agradecerla públicamente como presidente, viene de forma desinteresada, es decir, lo cual yo creo que le honra mucho. Se trata de una persona que conoce muy bien este mundo cooperativo, además le conoce desde dentro, de los que me conocéis un poco con el corazón. Bueno, pues es un poquitín lo que decía Ricardo, que antes de que ella pueda hacer su intervención, bueno, mirar un poquitín, sobre todo tener pues esa mirada, ¿no? A veces queremos, cuando tenemos la tentación de copiar modelos de otros países, pero también hay que ver un poquitín cuáles son las situaciones de partida y cómo se organizan socialmente allí todas esta serie de cosas. Entonces os vamos a dar pues 4 pinceladas o matices, yo creo que con eso conseguimos entender mejor un poquitín este proyecto. Señor Severo, venga para que usted. Sí, coño, está aquí. Bueno, entonces lo que nos interesaba ver, que me escapo. Lo que nos interesaba ver cuál es un poco la situación de partida de esos países del norte de Europa con respecto a España y en qué medida esas diferencias pues dificultan o facilitan la puesta en marcha de nuestros proyectos en España. Entonces va en 3 bloques. El primero es la atención a las personas mayores. Es responsabilidad del Estado, es decir, aquí todavía oficialmente es responsabilidad de las familias, pues en estos países del norte la responsabilidad de las personas mayores es del Estado, con lo cual eso cambia bastante el planteamiento. La atención a las personas dependientes es universal y gratuita, aunque exista un copago. Es decir, nosotros aquí en España sabemos que la seguridad social es universal y gratuita, pero la atención a la dependencia no es universal ni es gratuita. Para ciertas personas, pues más. La competencia sobre cómo o quién debe de atender a las personas mayores recae en los ayuntamientos, es su responsabilidad. Apuestan por los servicios de atención domiciliaria más que por las residencias, por 2 cuestiones, y además lo hacen hasta niveles de dependencia bastante elevados. Primero, porque es mucho más económico, y segundo, porque las personas, todos queremos estar en nuestra propia casa con autonomía, independencia y un trato justo, ¿no? Y digno. Entonces, ellos apuestan, al final son horas. Es decir, esto se mide al final en horas. Si en España tenemos la atención que viene a ser unas 18 horas en atención personal y en ayuda doméstica, pues ellos eso pues lo duplican o lo triplican en algunos casos y en bastantes. Existen residencias, es decir, cuando cogemos los datos, aproximadamente por cada 100 personas tienen 5 y pico plazas de residencias, es decir, que existen residencias, solamente que se desarrollan en modelos de unidades de convivencia, donde están grupos de personas, 8, 10, 12 personas, que es un poco lo que estamos desarrollando en este proyecto nuestro de Brisa del Cantábrico, es copiado de lo que ellos tienen. Es decir, en vez de ir a una residencia con mucha gente, pues son mini residencias, en nuestro caso, con 10 personas en cada mini residencia de estas, con habitaciones de 24 metros y habitaciones individuales con jardín terapéutico, como sabéis. Bueno, pues esto es un poquitín lo que respecto a la atención a las personas mayores encontramos allí, y entonces pues a veces no se parece en nada a lo que tenemos aquí con lo cual tenemos que lidiar. Esto puede ser que sea hasta aquí. Bueno, aquí empezamos a complicarnos. Bueno, el tema de las viviendas, sabéis que aquí en España pues es muy típico, y de hecho el 90% de las personas mayores de 65 años tenemos vivienda propia, una, incluso dos viviendas, segunda residencia. Esto no es aquí no hay una mentalidad, existe vivienda lógicamente. Me escapé. Joder, este es un lío. Esto lo culpa de Severo, que me lo ha puesto mal. Esto es culpa tuya. ¿Dónde tienes?
Date quieto, esto déjalo tranquilo. Vale, manéjalo con este.
Ah, vale. No, para atrás. Ah, sí. Joder. Vale. Es decir, los programas de ayuda a la vivienda social llevan muchos años en Europa, en los países, en Suecia y en Dinamarca. Llevan casi 100 años, es decir, nos sacan ventaja. En Suecia, por ejemplo, el 30% de las viviendas son de alquiler. Un 6% están en manos de empresas municipales de vivienda. Cuando luego veamos el proyecto de Kerstin, esto es propiedad de una empresa municipal. Es decir, como veis, el 20% están construidas en régimen de cooperativa. En Holanda, más del 30% de las viviendas son públicas. Es decir, hay que entenderlo esto. Ellos tienen bastante más facilidades para desarrollar este tipo de iniciativas que tenemos nosotros en España, ¿no? En Dinamarca, cerca del 52% de las viviendas son en propiedad, y en Copenhague no llegan ni siquiera al 20% de viviendas que son en propiedad. Es decir, ¿por qué es esto? Porque en estos países entienden, o las cosas las trabajan con las cuatro patas, que son las personas, las comunidades, en este caso, que quieren desarrollar un proyecto, el municipio, que se encarga de ser el promotor de ese proyecto, los bancos se encargan de financiarlo, y las administraciones se encargan de legislar en favor de este tipo de iniciativas, que es en realidad lo que quiere la gente, ¿no? Vivir en su propia casa, pero de otra manera, es decir, los que vamos envejeciendo en el siglo XXI queremos ya envejecer de otra manera. Bueno, pues eso allí lo tienen muy trabajado. Aquí, pues como veis, nosotros porque hemos tenido la suerte de que vamos a autofinanciar el proyecto, pero muchos proyectos de estos, cuando van a buscar financiación, pues tienen problemas para buscar financiación, tienen problemas para encontrar suelos, tienen problemas para la legislación, de alguna manera. Hay un programa nacional a nivel de viviendas, por ejemplo, aquí en España, que no tenemos nada que ver, que hacer nada a los cohousing en este tipo de ayudas. Es decir, la situación es muy diferente. Y ya finalmente, como os decía ahí, para desarrollar estos cohousing o estas comunidades colaborativas, están estas cuatro patas. La mayoría de los proyectos que están desarrollados en nuestros países están en régimen de tenencia, es decir, en alquiler. Y luego los ayuntamientos ayudan, es decir, no hacen diferencia entre el rico y el pobre, sino que ayudan, el rico, digamos, el que pueda tener un poquito más, no hacen diferencia, lo que hacen es ayudar al alquiler a personas que tengan rentas bajas. Y luego no se ofrecen cuidados, es decir, esto también es otro tema que tenemos que plantear en España cuando hacemos cohousing. En cualquier sitio tenemos que pensar de que al final sabéis que todos pasamos en nuestra vida por tres fases. A partir de los 65 años tenemos una serie de años que están en torno a 10 años que tenemos una buena calidad de vida, tenemos otros 8 o 10 años que tenemos una calidad de vida más o menos pues aceptable, pero tenemos que asumir que al final pues la mayoría de las personas tenemos más las mujeres que los hombres, las mujeres en torno a 4 años, los hombres en torno a 2 años y medio, que necesitamos prácticamente una ayuda permanente, ¿no? Entonces, esa ayuda permanente en estos países lo tienen garantizados hasta ciertos límites, que está en torno a las 20 horas semanales, entre las 80 horas, y después ya entraría en juego la ayuda que pueda hacer la familia, ¿no? Por eso digo que se puede estar mucho más tiempo en nuestra propia casa, porque las horas que se dedican a los que queremos estar en nuestra propia casa pues son mucho más que las que podemos utilizar aquí en España. Bueno, pues esto es un poquitín lo que os quería, yo creo que nos pone un poquitín también para que veamos el por qué allí es mucho más fácil desarrollar este tipo de iniciativas, aunque llevan ya muchos años, porque tienen otra mentalidad y otra forma de entender el envejecimiento, aunque luego vía impuestos pues también tengan, lógicamente, estos nuevos gratuitos. Todos sabemos que en los países del norte de Europa los impuestos pues son muchísimo más elevados que lo que tengamos aquí, pero desde luego para desarrollar este tipo de iniciativas es muchísimo más fácil. Aquí pues sabéis que tenemos muchas dificultades de todo tipo. De hecho, aún así tenemos 12 proyectos en España desarrollados en régimen de cooperativa, y casi todos menos uno en cesión de uso, es decir, no tenemos la propiedad del uso como les ocurre a ellos, sino el uso y disfrute de perpetuidad y heredable. Bueno, pues aún así vamos sacando proyectos adelante, ¿no? Yo creo que si tuviéramos la ayuda que podríamos tener, esto sería una cosa fácil de grupos organizados que quieran desarrollar este tipo de iniciativas, y no como se nos ocurre ahora, pues que muchos lo intentamos, unos tenemos suerte y vamos a sacarlo adelante, y otros pues tienen que tirar la toalla, ¿no? Pues nada, yo creo que con esto acabo mi pequeña intervención. Yo creo que no me he pasado.
No, muy bien.
Vale, pues venga, hasta luego.
No, prefiere aquí, prefiere aquí.
I just see to that it functions.
¿Cuál es?
Yes, just
Este.
F, yes, esta. And it's that one.
Esta.
And you better move it to the keyboard, to the desktop. Yes.
Vale.
Yes. Up and down. Oh, perhaps
okay.
it's a bit too wide, but
Es demasiado ancho, dice.
Ah,
Porque las otras las corta.
pues es que no sé cómo se hace esto. Me parece que no se puede.
This one, what is that?
¿Aquí?
Este.
No, it just
No.
takes it away. Yes. No, let's go.
Vale.
Let's go
¿Y lo
like
puede
this.
mover? Sí, eso para
Sí,
hacer unas fotos.
ella, sí, arriba, abajo.
Yeah.
¿eh?
Oh.
Ya, pero para que no estén cortadas las fotos. Es que ahí salen cortadas.
Vale, no, eso. Vale.
Amelia, ya lo dije, va a presentar a Kerstin. ¿Vale?
Eso es lo que yo iba a decir. Soy Amelia y soy del grupo de convivencia, como antes ha dicho Ricardo. Fue Elena la que me puso en contacto con ella en el verano, y he ido manteniendo correspondencia con ella y emails de índole práctico, fechas, programas, pero también me interesé por saber algo más de ella. Sabía solo su nombre, que vivía en un cohousing en Estocolmo, y así que investigué un poco para saber algo más de su trayectoria. Me enteré que ha trabajado la mayor parte de su vida en temas relacionados con el cohousing, que es miembro fundador de un grupo de investigación llamado Vivir en Comunidad, y que ha visitado muchos proyectos colaborativos en Europa, en Japón y en Estados Unidos, recogiendo impresiones y difundiendo esta forma de vivir que ella considera que es el futuro. también cuestionándose nuevas propuestas, supongo relacionadas con diferentes etapas de su vida y que ha ido enriqueciendo con su propia experiencia. Sus experiencias y reflexiones la han inspirado múltiples publicaciones. Ha escrito, sola y en colaboración, varios libros y capítulos sobre la vivienda para mayores, como por ejemplo, entre otros, Culturas del cohousing, vivienda para la tercera edad, Convivir, ideas de cohousing y realidades alrededor del mundo, Mayores conviviendo, un manual de cómo crear y vivir en una comunidad de cohousing, Vivienda y medios vitales para los mayores, cómo es en Dinamarca, Alemania, los Países Bajos e Inglaterra, Comunidad y colaboración en cohousing. También es editora de la página web de la Asociación Nacional Sueca de Cohousings y del periódico digital Comienza. Y todo lo que iba descubriendo de ella no hacía nada más que reafirmar su entrega y conocimiento acerca de lo que hoy nos va a contar. Pero también quiero añadir a su currículum su casa, Farnapen, que la tenéis ahí en la foto. Porque aunque normalmente no hablamos de nuestras casas en el currículum, en este caso la casa de Kerstin es como un proyecto fin de carrera. Pionera en muchos aspectos, Farnapen no solo es la materialización del trabajo de toda su vida, es además un punto de referencia para muchos cohousings. Y no solo en Suecia, nosotros fuimos testigos en Estocolmo cuando estuvimos el mes pasado, la influencia que ha tenido en otros cohousings allí, sino también en Finlandia, en Japón y en Alemania. Hace un mes, como os decía, un pequeño grupo hemos ido a Estocolmo con la intención de visitar cohousings, y entre ellos hemos estado en Farnapen, donde ella lleva viviendo 25 años. El primer cohousing para la segunda edad de la vida, para la segunda mitad de la vida. Una expresión muy adecuada y que no es ningún eufemismo. Es un edificio luminoso y acogedor que refleja el bienestar de sus habitantes. Nos enseñaron y explicaron amablemente todos los espacios comunes, desde la cocina, el comedor, múltiples salas donde relajarse, ver la televisión, leer o charlar, la sala de deporte, la sauna, el taller de costura, taller de bricolaje. Subimos hasta la terraza, en la última planta, para ver 2 colmenas que tienen y de la que recogen un montón de tarros de miel. Y están muy orgullosos de ellos porque nos lo repitieron varias veces. Es una casa activa que, como todas las casas, habla de todos ellos y de cómo viven. Tuvimos la oportunidad de compartir cena y velada con Kerstin y con algunos de sus compañeros. Gran parte de la conversación y sobre todo las reflexiones más trascendentes las hemos compartido con vosotros en la página web junto con algunas fotos. La conversación se desarrolló en un ambiente distendido y agradable y lleno de toques de humor. Por eso no me sorprendió la primera respuesta cuando le pregunté cuáles eran los beneficios de vivir en cohousing. Lo primero que dijo fue que es divertido. En ese tono nos habló de las condiciones del edificio, relaciones con promotores y autoridades y sobre todo su vida cotidiana y la gestión de sus decisiones, poniendo como ejemplo la elección hace más de 20 años entre cortinas lisas o estampadas de las zonas comunes, ironizando sobre la forma sueca de llegar al consenso. Si no llegan a un consenso, se sientan sobre ellas y las dejan enfriar. Parece que es parte de la idiosincrasia sueca esta forma de actuar. Con humor también nos comentaba que quieren que las autoridades estén muy, muy orgullosos de ellos y para eso les cuentan todo lo que hacen. Nos enseñó un archivador que tenía una foto en la tapa con productos de limpieza y que lo titulaba algo así como la ayudita de mamá. Pero no tenía que ver con la limpieza, o por lo menos no solo con la limpieza, sino con las reglas internas que ellos mismos han ido elaborando a lo largo de su convivencia. Déjalo como lo has encontrado, si quieres tal, haz tal, si te dejas algo olvidado pasa a ser comunitario. Eran algunas de las recomendaciones sobre el gimnasio. Frasecitas cortas que no se prestan a malentendidos y que supongo que favorecen la convivencia. Y por mi parte nada más, solo unas pinceladas para acercarla un poco más a vosotros, con la seguridad que su conferencia va a ser inspiradora, porque no cabe duda que nuestra invitada Kerstin Kärnekull es una gran experta en cohousing. Muchísimas gracias y Kerstin, the floor is yours.
I'm really happy to be here on this sunny day. And I'm going to try to tell you something about the background in Sweden and about experiences from living in a Swedish co-housing project for 25 years. I'll start with a short history, a short background, and then I'll show you the life, the day-to-day life in Färdknäppen, and I will end by trying to answer some of the questions you sent me. And this is a snapshot from our history. In Sweden, collective houses with services, with restaurants and common spaces, they were built from the 1930s to up to the 1960s. Then it was obvious that most people couldn't afford paying for dinners every night as going to a restaurant. And so another model grew in Sweden, a model based on cooperation, collaboration. We could do things together. That was the idea behind it. But those two ladies to the left are important because they founded or financed a collective house in Stockholm that a few of you have visited, and it still exists. It was started in the 1940s. And so that means that these ideas are they can function in different situations, in different periods, and they function well. That was back. Yes. And in Sweden, most people live in ordinary small flats and private villas, but a few live in collectives, like small communities in one building, like 5 to 10 persons together with one kitchen. There are some eco-villages, like 40 of them, and then there are collective houses designed to combine small private flats with nice common spaces. And in Sweden there are like 50 collective houses or co-housing projects built since 1980 and onwards. And I'll show you examples of what we do together and what you can find in them. But the interesting thing is that these projects last. They function, not always that well, but mostly from the beginning, and they keep on functioning. And it's due to all those living there engaged in taking care of what happens in the house, doing things together. That's the most important thing that everyone is and takes on responsibility. When you get old and weak, you don't have to, of course you don't have to take part in things you can't do, but most actually want to keep on as long as possible. People want to be part of the greater community. These 50 collective houses, co-housing projects, are mostly urban, but not all of them. They are mostly new units, but not all of them. Some are old houses that has been refurbished, altered into co-housing projects. There are different kinds of tenancy. There are rental, cooperatively owned, and cooperative tenancy. So there are 3 different types in Sweden. Common to most co-housing projects in Sweden that they are run by municipally owned housing companies. That's a special form in Sweden where municipals own their own housing company. Politicians are on the board. They are rental. And in this functions too for co-housing projects. We are renters. We have a special agreement with the housing company about the relationship between us and the housing company and our association. For of course we have to have an association to take decisions, manage everything, and we are self-managing most of what's happening in our houses. And also in Sweden, when we move into a co-housing project, we have agreed to share some common tasks. Mostly it's cooking, 3 to 5 times a week, cooking dinners. It may sound quite as a big thing to do, but in reality it means that you take turns. So I cook 3 times every 6 weeks. 5 weeks and 2 days I can go down to our dinner room and have a nice homemade dinner at a really low cost, only the cost of the ingredients. Meeting my neighbors, having a pleasant time together before I'm going back to my flat. Or I may also take part in some of the things going on in the co-housing project. So joint meals, collaboration are very important, and I'll come back and back to that again and again, because to make this kind of living function, it needs people who feel trust in one another, who enjoy doing things together, who learn new things doing things together, and live longer, because you do live longer if you have fun and if you all the time are learning new things, meeting people. This is a map of the co-housing projects in Sweden, and it looks more impressive than it is, because 50 is only 50. It's a small part of Swedish housing that's co-housing, but it's growing, and that's interesting. It's a big interest among grassroots, but most politicians and most builders and most housing companies haven't heard about co-housing, doesn't understand the idea that people go together in order to form their own way of living. But they have to relearn and understand it and start. We call them starting groups, all those groups around Sweden, and they are getting more and more, and they are having more and more impact on planning, but it's a slow process. And these are some lessons from all those 50 projects in Sweden. The main idea is very simple. It's to have a smaller apartment and more shared space. So you can afford having more shared space by diminishing your own flat. And then if you share space, you get so much more. If you leave like 10 to 10 square meters to the common spaces, then you get much more back. Where I live, the founder, she says, I have 400 square meters, but I pay for 45. And that's what she's doing. It's a good bargain, actually. So the basic idea is very simple. Smaller private flats, more common spaces. And we can share and use space and equipment. It saves time, it saves money. Of course we have privacy. Privacy is so important when you are thinking about living in a co-housing projects. You also need privacy, that's the basis. This idea of doing things together, taking turns doing things, taking responsibility, it's the best way to get to know one another. And that's so interesting that we are actually, like I see it, we are forming a new way of using those common spaces, because no one had done that before. So we are like social inventors. You will be social inventors when you move into Brisa, because you have to find out how can we do this together, who has the right to decide where and why, and lots of other things that you didn't have to bother about living in your private flat or building. We are keeping costs low, of course, because we are taking responsibility for the management. It's important to have a wide range of ages. When I moved into Färdknäppen, I was 50 years young, because I was one of the youngest. Now I'm 75, and I'm among the older group. And this is fascinating. When I was 50, I got new friends the age of my mother. And it's not so often you have friends your mother's age. Now I'm a friend of young people, and I'm the age of their mothers. So it goes. And this is, when we move into a house, senior co-housing project, age stops to be relevant. You don't think about people's age. You think about who they are and what they are doing and how you are relating to them in the co-housing project. So age suddenly is not so important. That's one thing. The other is that you learn so much about just aging, what it means to get older, that you are actually the same person inside, even if you are getting more wrinkles and your hair is whitening, so you are still a person with ideas, dreams, and it's fantastic to get to know more new persons you ever could dream of when you move into a project like this. I saw it that I had 50 other persons served like on a tablet, do you say so? No, I suddenly had the possibility to get to know people I'd never would have learned to know, gotten to know before. 50 new persons when I was 50 years old. That is actually a gift. I don't love all of them. You don't have to love all of them. But you learn so much about people when you do things together with them, and you learn to accept them. And that's also important. But of course, if someone who doesn't want to be together with others move into co-housing project, then it's not so good. Not for the group, not for that person. And so it's important to make sure that those who are moving in really are engaged and interested in the ideas behind the projects. And this is Färdknäppen, where I live. It's in the central part of Stockholm. 43 flats, 1 to 3 rooms and a kitchen. And then we have like 300 to 400 square meters in common. In the entrance area, because it's important that these common spaces are easy to access, that you can see what's going on in them, that they are open, inviting. We have also a roof terrace, and we have some rooms in the in the cellar. Basic, do I say so? In the basement, no? In the cellar, yeah. But this idea of Färdknäppen, it was the first senior co-housing project in Sweden. It started at a kitchen table, 2 persons discussing getting older. How will life be when our kids have moved, have left us, and we are alone? And that was the beginning of everything. They talked to friends and decided to find a solution living together. And it was a slow process, and it took a lot of work to persuade a municipal housing company to build this house together with their association, but they managed to do it. And the important thing actually is that the politicians, one politician in Stockholm in those days, he was engaged in co-housing or collective housing. So he had told the municipal housing companies to build co-housing projects. And so the politicians must see how positive it is when you have also this kind of housing in the municipality or in the community. The politicians are really important because they can say no, and they ought to say yes. This is a floor plan of Färdknäppen. You see the big blue arrow, it's the main entrance. Then we also have small entrances to those 2 stairways that are in the house. But the important thing is that everyone comes into the building through the main door. We also have our post boxes in there, and it's like a meeting room, our square, when we enter the house. But of course, if someone is visiting you and you don't want your neighbors to know, then he or she can take the stairs down and leave by the smaller doors. So you can keep your privacy. That's also important. And on the ground floor we have this entrance hall. We have a living room, multifunctional. We have a dining room, a kitchen where we do this cooking together 5 days a week. We have a workshop, a laundry, and we have a small garden in the middle of Stockholm, and it's really nice. Not today. It's raining in Stockholm. And we have a long winter period, but from March to October we use it. Although it's in the middle of Stockholm, it's only a low fence towards other areas around it, and it functions so well. These are the tenants, 56 tenants. The youngest at the moment is 53, the oldest is 93. 1/3 is men, and 2/3 are women. Couples and single persons, no children, but a lot of grandchildren. Coming, visiting, staying for a night or two. I need to pick up my watch to see that I'm not keeping on too long. So, I have been talking about the importance for us to have dinner together. It gives a regularity to our lives. It is nice to come down to have dinner. It is not expensive. And those 3 days during those 6 weeks that I cook or wash up the dishes are a bit, you feel a big responsibility to cook a good dinner for 40 to 60 persons, because that's what we do. But you also realize that it's mostly about peeling and chopping, because there's such huge amount of food that you have to handle. We start at the latest 2 o'clock every day. And as you know, in Sweden we have dinners early, too early as I see it. I have tried to change that for 25 years, but we start at 5:30 with our dinner. It's really early. And you can come between 5:30 and 7. So those who start cooking the meal, they begin 2 o'clock and they end 5:30. And then there is another smaller group who is responsible for the washing up, that comes and take care of serving and washing and things like that, and cleaning and tidying up. Because when you have been cooking for 40 to 60 persons, then some tidying is needed. We always have a vegetarian alternative. Not the days when we serve fish, because in Stockholm most vegetarians eat fish actually. But those days when we have something made of meat, we also have a vegetarian alternative. And we are slowly moving from old-fashioned Swedish cooking to more modern alternatives. So now we serve quinoa and other things, and tofu and like that. So we are slowly learning and adapting to this society where we have to diminish the intake of red meat and try to be eating more from vegetables and things like that. It's fun to cook together. And the interesting thing is that it's so funny that we have friends coming in from the vicinity, helping in the cooking once or twice during that period. We are 6 groups, so every group has their friends helping. There are even people coming to wash up the dishes by free will, thinking it's interesting and it's a way of getting to understand how a co-housing project functions. We have a list of 80 members who are not living in the house, because our association is open also to members outside the house, those interested in moving into Färdknäppen. And for them it's a good opportunity to be able to take part in cooking or washing up, to understand what this means, this co-housing way of life. So I always have dinner together with my neighbors when I am at home. It's absolutely the highlight, one of the highlights of this way of living. Sometimes we don't eat everything that we have chopped and peeled. Then you can come down. First I'll say something about costs. We pay €3 for a dinner with bread and butter, a main course, a salad, water and coffee. It's not expensive. On Fridays we also have a dessert, and then we pay €5. But those things, those leftovers, you can take them the next day and pay €2 for something for your lunch, or if there is anything in the refrigerator. And 2 days later, they are free. So before I went away to go here, I went down to the kitchen, and there was a cauliflower soup from 2 days before. So I had a nice lunch with no cost of home-cooked, well-prepared cauliflower soup. And so we have almost no leftovers. Some potatoes and some rice is sometimes no one interested in. We also are responsible for the cleaning of the common spaces. And this is actually a way of saving money, because in Sweden, when you pay your rent, the cleaning of staircases is included. And we are also taking care of the garden. And in Sweden, taking care of the garden is included in the rent. So we get that money back from the housing company, but we don't get it as individuals. It goes to our association. And that means that the association has an income of like 6,000 to 7,000 euro each year. And that's nice money. If I had got back what for my work, it would have been like 10 euro a month or less. But 6,000 or 7,000 euro for the association is important, because we don't have to have fees We pay, of course, for our dinners, but then we can afford having lots of things I'll show you together, and we can afford to buy new furniture and do other things. So this cleaning is not always that funny. Every 6 weeks I have to do something. It takes 1 or 2 hours. It's not so often, but still. But we do it. We have groups. We have cleaning groups too. So we meet and discuss and decide on whom is going to take that part and who is going to take the other part of the cleaning. And the house is really nice and clean and well kept. You wouldn't believe that this is a rental house, a rental building where people have been living for 25 years, because we are taking good care of the house. I know that there are others who are better at cleaning than I am, but I'm doing my best those 2 hours every 6 weeks. We also have a lovely room for garbage. We are, sorting in lots of fractions, and we have one man in the house who is very engaged in teaching us how to sort the right way. And so it's also a nice room. It's not a bad room, our garbage room. This is from the central area, the central square, the meeting point, because not even the postman can come into our house. As soon as you enter the second entrance door, you are in our common home. And there is no code. You need to have a key, or you need to have someone letting you in. And so we feel totally at home in those common spaces. The postman has to stay outside, and so we can open the post boxes from the back and put in all the letters and things like that. We know him well. He is a nice man, and we invite him to dinner every year and give him a bottle of wine. We have the privilege to have our own, he takes our letters. We don't have to go to the post office. So there is, a nice communication with him. And you can see the post boxes on the upper left, and you can see two persons sitting reading our daily newspapers, because we have 2 daily newspapers. So every morning I take my tray with tea and sandwiches and go down to the common space and sit down, read the newspaper. Often there is someone else. We don't say that much to one another. We say, and have you seen this? But it's a nice moment. It's nice to sit down together, and it's part of our common life. And you can also see up to the right that there is something going on. We have lots of small exhibitions. At the moment we have one with photos from the last 20 years in the house. And this is when someone is opening the exhibition, and that someone person in the corner, he was one of those 2 sitting at that table discussing the idea of building a house to live together in. He never moved into the house. He stayed outside, but he often comes and is invited, and now he opened this exhibition. So this is an important meeting place, and here we also have 2 notice board. You will understand later why we need so many notice boards in this house. But one is for everything that's going on, and the other is for from the board, notices from the board and from all those working groups we have in the house, and that manages lots of what's going on. So this room is important, and when you come into this room, you can see through big windows into the daily room, into the sitting room. You can see towards the dining room, you can see towards the weaving room, because we have a small weaving room. You get a view of what's going on in the house at the moment. And communication, the possibility to understand what's happening is important. I talked before about our garden. It's not big, but it functions in many ways for parties, for what do you call it now? I can't find the word for when you sell and buy, when you sell old things, but we do that sometimes, sell old things to our neighbors. We have coffee breaks in the garden, and of course we are doing some work. But when you are 50 persons doing things together, things do not take that long time, and you have fun when you are doing it. You need quite a lot of things, of course, so you always need places where you can store away all the equipment you need together. We are not only having things, doing things we have to, we are also having fun in many ways. And there are a lot of people who are interested in music in the house. So we have a choir with persons who are not living in the house and people living in the house. We have musicians, some almost professional. There is always music going on. One important thing, and that is something that you have to have in order before you move in, it is the decision system. How can you take decisions together? Who has a say? And as you are a cooperative, so you know everything about that. But it is important to have a good tradition and a good knowledge about how to function together in an association. In order and also to have a good documentation of all your decisions. So to the left you see a house meeting. Actually, we are not allowing our board to take too many decisions. We have house meetings where everyone has the right to attend, and 5 times a year, and the board, they can execute what we have decided on the house meetings, and they can prepare and plan the house meetings, but the decisions are we taking, all of us. That's important for us. There are different ways of solving this, but this is our way. And so you can see the board to the right, upper right, it's in the workshop, because we have so many meetings in the house. So sometimes we have to use our workshop also as a meeting room. And down to the right is our annual meeting. And down to the left is also an important meeting. Those who have been moving into the house during the last 5 years are meeting to discuss what they see, what they think, what they would like to change. It's so few flats that are empty every year. It's 1 or 2 out of 43. So those who are moving in, there are a few, they are alone, and they need actually to meet and to discuss if there ever will be a possibility to change anything. Because we who are living in the house, we are often quite satisfied with how it functions. So they may think that it's a bit slow, that changes take too long a time. That's what they are discussing, I think. This is some of the activities going on. To the left, upper left, you see our living room, and it's used also not only for reading the morning journals. We have a computer. We have 3 computers that everyone can use with internet access, so we don't have to have a computer at home. That was something that we didn't have when we moved in 25 years ago. We then had a smoking room for those who smoked, but that's gone. And now there is a computer in the smoking room, and there's a computer in the living room, and there's a computer in our office, because we have a small office too. So everyone can find a place to work, either in the middle of everything or in a separate room. And to the right, you can see how this exhibition with photos is prepared. It's not only in the living room, in every possible area in the entrance, on the entrance floor, because there are 60 quite big pictures from our day-to-day daily life. Down to the left, you see our workshop, and down those two show our workshop, it's used in many ways. It's used by the garden group, it's used for painting things, it's for repairing. You can always borrow something and bring up if you need a screwdriver or anything else. So you can have lots of things without owning them, and hopefully someone else is taking care of them, or we do it together. And we have no children, but there are almost always children somewhere in the house. And before Christmas we have one day when all children are welcome, and we do lots of Christmas things with them. A house full of grannies, someone said. Think of that. That's, she said to her friend when they passed the house. This is a house full of babysitters and grannies and grandfathers. Quite usable. Okay. Yes, you can see that we have quite a few study visits from all over the world, also from here. And we think that it's very important to show our house to those who are interested, because you don't understand the way we live if you don't see it with your own eyes. So it's our way of spreading the idea of living together in a co-housing unit. And still, privacy is so important. And we are actually living a very private life in combination with this, together with our neighbors. And I think that's one of the key things, that we have this privacy and this respect for privacy, combined with the possibility to meet our neighbors as soon as we leave our own flat. And to show you, just to give you an idea, we have lots of groups. And all those groups are writing a report every year, telling about what they have done. And when we had lived in the house for 20 years, we took photos of all the groups and presented them with the members in them to document the activities that are going on in the house. And this is to give you an impression of the board up to the left, the library group, the archives group, the group for electronic equipment, the beehive group, the party group. We have a party group, that's important. We have the choir. We have a workout room in the basement, and that's so important when you're getting older and stiffer. It's fantastic to go down to the cellar. I do it actually 5 to 6 days a week, because it's cheap, it's quick, and it's good. We have a group that organizes the plans, the meals, and all those working groups, so they are functioning well and things. They are a very important group called the housekeepers. And we have, they're called something else, because we have a group for housekeeping too, house management, who are doing some simple management of the house, and we get some small money back also to the association. We had a group that built a new place for our bicycles. We had a group that organized the refurbishment of the kitchen. We have a group, this is the most problematic group, the group of interior design, because people are so engaged in these questions. And I think if I could decide from the beginning that we should have said that this group is what they decide, we other accept. Or we have to front hours of discussions about colors and things like that. So this is actually complicated with taste. We have a group that makes like a Christmas table out of gingerbread. Sounds crazy, is crazy. We have a group that meets spontaneously every day to have coffee together in the afternoons. We have a group for art. We have a group for contact with new members. And after we have a break, I will tell you a little more about this important group. We have a group reading books together. We have a group that's only active after Christmas, puzzling together. There is a big puzzle. 4,000 pieces was too much, actually. 3,000 is better. We have a group with Qigong. We have a group that organizes the cleaning of the house. We have a garden group that everyone takes part. We have 2 chairpersons, 1 man and 1 woman. And before, I hope I'm not frightening you too much with all these groups. And here comes more. These are some 111 tasks that are done in the house every day, every year, without a special group responsible, but there are so many things that has to be done to keep a community functioning. So there is there's a place for every interest, for every person who wants to do something. Not always being rewarded or seen for what he or she is doing, but it is like in a home. Things has to be done and someone has to do them. And in Färdknäppen where I live, we have counted them, 111 small things, but important for our day-to-day life. Is it time for a break? Is it time for a break? Yeah? And how long? 20 minutes. Five. My Spanish is not so good.
De media hora.
Half an hour.
Entonces, hacemos el descanso ahora y a las 12:25, a ver si podemos ganar 5 minutos. A las 12:25 seguimos con ella un ratito más y luego las preguntas. ¿Hay alguna persona que se ha apuntado al comedor y no ha recogido el vale? Mirad a ver si hay alguno que se ha despistado. Es el momento, están allí en la esquina con los vales, ¿de acuerdo? A las 12:20, 25, aquí, otra vez.